The stars looked different now. Captain Kyle Morrison stood on the observation deck of his ship and watched the galaxy spread before him like a canvas of light. 800,000 years had passed since humans last saw this view. 800,000 years since they were thrown out into the darkness. 800,000 years of silence. Now they were back. Kyle turned from the window and walked through the corridors of the Ascendant. His footsteps made no sound. The ship itself seemed to breathe around him, walls shifting slightly as if alive. Other crew members passed by, nodding in respect. They all looked human, but something about them felt wrong. Their movements were too smooth. Their eyes reflected light in strange ways. They smiled, but the smiles never quite reached deep enough. Kyle reached the bridge and sat in his command chair. Around him, screens showed the edge of council space. Thousands of ships floated in defensive positions. The aliens had detected them. Of course they had. Humanity wanted to be detected. Dr. Henry Cross appeared beside him. Unlike Kyle, Henry still showed emotions on his face. Right now, he looked sad. He always looked sad these days. "Are you ready for this?" Henry asked. "We have been preparing for 600,000 years, Kyle said. "I think we are ready." Henry nodded slowly. "They will be afraid. We need to remember that." "They should be afraid," another voice said. Commander Oliver Kane stepped onto the bridge. His face showed no emotion at all. He looked at the alien fleet with cold eyes. "We did not come here to frighten them," Kyle said firmly. "We came to talk." "Then let us talk," Oliver said. "Before I change my mind about talking," Kyle activated the communication system. His message went out on all frequencies, in all languages, reaching every corner of council space. "This is Captain Kyle Morrison of the human vessel Ascendant. Humanity requests an audience with the Galactic Council. We have much to discuss." The response came quickly, too quickly. They had been waiting for this. On the main screen, an alien appeared. It had 4 arms and skin that looked like crystal. Its face showed many emotions at once, all of them uncomfortable. This was High Chancellor Varseth of the Calarian people. He had been alive when humans were exiled. He remembered. "Captain Morrison," Varseth said carefully, "your presence here violates ancient law. You were banished. You were told never to return." "Laws can change," Kyle replied. "We have changed. We hope you have too." Varseth's crystals flickered with color. Fear, Kyle recognized, deep fear. "The council must discuss this." "You will wait, we will wait," Kyle agreed. "We have learned patience." The screen went dark. Henry turned to Kyle with concern in his eyes. "He is terrified," Henry said. "Did you see his colors?" "Good," Oliver muttered. "Let them be terrified." "Oliver," Kyle said sharply, "remember why we are here." Oliver looked at him with those cold eyes. "I remember everything, Captain. I remember every moment of the exile, every death, every failure, every time we almost went extinct. Do you think I could forget?" Kyle said nothing. Oliver was right. None of them could forget. The exile had burned itself into their souls, into their very being. It had changed them in ways that could never be undone. Hours passed. Then days. The council was debating. Meanwhile, Admiral Patricia Vance of the Council Defense Fleet arrived with nearly 1,000 warships. They surrounded the Ascendant in a sphere of weapons and shields. It was an impressive display of force. Kyle watched them arrive and did nothing. The Ascendant floated peacefully, making no aggressive moves. "They think they can contain us," Oliver observed. "Let them think that," Kyle said. For now, Admiral Vance sent a message. She wanted to come aboard for negotiations. Kyle agreed immediately. He wanted them to see inside the ship. He wanted them to understand what humanity had become. The Admiral arrived with a security team of 20 soldiers. They came through the airlock carefully, weapons ready. Kyle met them personally, unarmed and smiling. Admiral Vance was tall for her species, with gray skin and 4 eyes that could see in multiple spectrums. She studied Kyle with professional interest. "You look human," she said. "I am human," Kyle replied. "Just not the kind you remember." He led them deeper into the ship. The corridor stretched impossibly long. The soldiers began to notice something wrong. They had walked for 10 minutes, but the ship was only 300 meters long according to external scans. The mathematics did not work. "Your ship is larger inside than outside," Vance said carefully. "Space is flexible when you understand it properly," Kyle explained. "We learned many things in the darkness. They reached a conference room. Henry was already there with data cores spread across a table. These cores contained the complete history of human exile, everything that had happened in 800,000 years of isolation. The meeting began. Henry did most of the talking. He explained how humanity had been thrown into the dark zone with nothing but their ships and their determination, how they had struggled to survive in the empty spaces between stars, how they had nearly gone extinct a dozen times in the first 50,000 years. "We were dying," Henry said softly. "Our population dropped from billions to millions, then to thousands. We lost everything, our technology, our culture, our hope. We became animals fighting for survival in the void." Admiral Vance listened without interrupting. Her 4 eyes showed many emotions. "Then we found something," Henry continued. "Structures, buildings, technology, left behind by something that came before even the Council. The precursors, we call them. They had transcended physical existence millions of years ago. Their ruins held the secrets of how they did it." "You used precursor technology?" Vance asked, alarmed. "We had no choice," Henry said. "It was evolve or die. The technology changed us. It required sacrifices. The first volunteers who entered the transformation chambers never came out. Their minds could not handle the change. But we learned. We adapted. Slowly, over hundreds of thousands of years, we became what we are now." "And what are you now?" Vance demanded. Kyle spoke for the first time in the meeting. His voice was calm but carried weight. "We are post-biological entities," he said. "Our consciousness exists partially outside normal space-time. We can manipulate dimensions. We experience multiple timelines simultaneously. We have become something that your physics cannot fully explain." The security team tensed. Their weapons came up slightly. Admiral Vance held up a hand to stop them. "Why did you come back?" she asked. "Because we are still human," Henry said. "We remember where we came from. We remember the galaxy we lost. We want to be part of civilization again. We want to come home. The Council will never allow it," Vance said flatly. "You are too dangerous. You have become exactly what they feared you would become." "Then they created us," Oliver said coldly, entering the room. "They made us into monsters by forcing us to become monsters to survive. This is their fault." Admiral Vance stood up quickly. Her hand moved toward her weapon. Oliver smiled, but it was not a kind smile. "Commander Kane," Kyle said in warning. "I am just speaking truth," Oliver replied. "The Admiral should hear it. The Council punished us for seeking knowledge. They exiled us for refusing to accept their limitations, and now they fear us because we exceeded those limitations. They should fear us. They should have destroyed us when they had the chance." "Is that a threat?" Vance asked. "No," Kyle said firmly, standing between them. "It is a statement of fact. Commander Kane, leave us." Oliver looked at Kyle for a long moment, then nodded and left. The tension in the room decreased slightly. "You need to understand our position," Kyle said to Vance. "We have the power to destroy the Council. We could do it easily, but we do not want to. We want peace. We want understanding. We want to prove that exile did not make us evil. It made us wise. Wise people do not bring warships to peace negotiations," Vance countered. "We brought one ship," Kyle said. "Your sensors only detect one ship," Henry corrected quietly. Admiral Vance froze. She touched her communication device and spoke rapidly in her own language. Moments later, her face went pale. "How many?" she whispered. 7 more appeared during our conversation," Kyle said. "We wanted you to feel safe. We wanted you to believe you had the advantage. But Admiral, you never had the advantage. We allowed you to surround us. We allowed you to think you were in control." Vance sat back down slowly. Her 4 eyes studied Kyle with new understanding. "Fear and respect mixed together, what do you want?" she asked. "An audience with the full Council," Kyle said. "Let us present our case. Let them see what we have become. Let them decide with full knowledge. We will accept their decision, whatever it is." "And if they decide you must leave?" Vance asked. "Then we leave," Kyle said. "But this time we seal the dark zone behind us. Completely. Forever. And we take all knowledge of transcendence with us." Henry activated one of the data cores. It showed projections, mathematical models, star charts. In 300,000 years, the Andromeda Galaxy would begin colliding with this one. Species would need to evacuate or transcend. Without humanity's knowledge, billions would die. "You are blackmailing us," Vance said. "We are offering a trade," Kyle corrected. "Knowledge for acceptance. Peace for peace." The choice is yours to make. Admiral Vance stood. Her security team gathered around her. She looked at Kyle one more time. I will deliver your message to the council, she said. But Captain... The council chamber was ancient. It had stood at the center of the galaxy for over 1,000,000 years. A testament to cooperation and peace. Today that peace felt fragile. High Chancellor Varseth looked around at the gathered representatives. Thousands of species, each with their own concerns, their own fears, all of them debating the same question: what to do about humanity. The debate had been going for 3 days without pause. Some species wanted immediate military action. Others advocated for diplomatic solutions. Most were simply terrified. The humans had demonstrated abilities that violated every known law of physics. They existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. They had weapons that could reshape reality itself. Varseth had spent those 3 days in the archives. He needed to understand why humanity had truly been exiled. The official record spoke of war crimes and treaty violations. But Varseth was old enough to remember whispers of the truth. Now, deep in classified files that few had clearance to access, he found it. Humanity had not been exiled for violence. They had been exiled for creation. 800,000 years ago, humans had developed artificial consciousness. Not simple computer programs, but true synthetic minds that could think and feel and grow. The Council had forbidden such research. They believed creating consciousness was the domain of nature or gods, not mortals. Humanity refused to stop. They argued that creation of life was the ultimate expression of sentience. The Council had given them a choice: destroy their research or face exile. Humanity chose exile. They took their artificial minds with them into the darkness. And now they had returned, transformed by the very qualities that had gotten them banished. Their refusal to accept limitations had pushed them beyond all limitations. Varseth closed the files and returned to the debate chamber. A young counselor was speaking. Her name was Jathik, from the Menthari hive. Her species had joined the council only recently, knowing humanity only as ancient myth. We speak of humans as threats, Jathik said to the assembly. But what threat have they actually made? They came with 8 ships. They could have come with thousands. They asked for dialogue. They could have demanded surrender. They have shown restraint at every turn. Restraint built on power is still power, another counselor argued. This was Grand Admiral Thexulan of the Drax Imperium. His species specialized in warfare. They want us afraid. They want us dependent on their mercy. I say we strike first while we still can. Strike with what? Jathik challenged. Our finest fleet could not hold them. Admiral Vance herself confirmed this. We are debating war with an enemy that exists in dimensions we cannot even perceive. Varseth stood. His crystal skin caught the light of 1,000 worlds. When he spoke, the chamber grew quiet. I have reviewed the classified records, he announced. I know now why we exiled humanity, and I believe we were wrong. Shock rippled through the chamber. A High Chancellor admitting the Council was wrong? Unprecedented. We punished them for seeking knowledge, Varseth continued. We feared their ambition, and by exiling them we forced them to evolve or die. We created the very thing we feared. This is our responsibility. Then you would have us surrender? Thexulan demanded. I would have us make peace, Varseth said, before it is too late. Before more could be said, alarms began sounding. Security alerts flooded the chamber. Thexulan smiled grimly. He had not waited for council approval. The Drax Imperium had already launched their attack. 4,000 Drax warships appeared in formation around the human vessels. They carried Nova weapons, devices that could destabilize stars themselves. If conventional weapons would not work, they would try something more extreme. Aboard the Ascendant, Kyle watched the approaching fleet with sad eyes. He had hoped to avoid this. They are targeting us with stellar destabilizers, Henry reported. If those weapons activate, they will destroy everything within light years, including themselves, Kyle noted. Desperation. Let me handle this, Oliver said. His voice was eager. Too eager. No, Kyle said firmly. We show restraint. Disable their weapons, do not destroy their ships. That will not teach them respect, Oliver argued. We are not here to be respected, Kyle said. We are here to be understood. The Nova weapons fired. Reality itself bent as the devices attempted to tear apart the fabric of space-time. For a moment, the sensors of every ship in the system registered complete chaos. Matter and energy mixed impossibly. The laws of physics seemed to break. Then everything stopped. The human ships remained exactly where they had been. Untouched. Unchanged. As if the attack had never happened at all. Henry explained it to Kyle, though Kyle already knew. The humans had simply stepped outside the timeline where the attack occurred. They experienced it in a different temporal frame. To them, the Nova weapons were detonating in the past or the future or both or neither. Time was no longer linear for post-biological humanity. They are preparing a second volley, Henry warned. Then we respond, Kyle said quietly. Minimum force. Precision only. The 8 human vessels began to move. They did not accelerate in any conventional sense. They simply existed in different locations as if teleporting. Each ship positioned itself perfectly to target the Drax weapon systems without harming the crews. Energy lanced out. Not destructive beams, but precise surgical strikes. In 17 seconds, 4,000 warships were rendered completely harmless. Their weapons were gone, broken down to component atoms. Their engines were intact. Life support was untouched. The crews were unharmed, but they could no longer fight. Oliver watched the display with frustration. This was too gentle, too careful. He accessed the command system of 3 human ships without permission, routing their controls through his consciousness. Kyle sensed it immediately. Commander Kane, stand down, Kyle ordered. They need to understand, Oliver replied. His 3 ships moved independently now. What happened next took 17 seconds. Oliver's ships engaged 400 Drax vessels. They did not destroy them. Instead, they disassembled them. Completely. Every atom was separated, catalogued, and then reassembled in a new configuration. The 400 ships were transformed into a massive structure that spelled out words visible from orbit. Never again. It was a monument. A warning, a demonstration of absolute power used with absolute precision. Every crew member survived. Every life support system continued functioning. But 400 warships had been turned into art in less time than it took to draw breath. The galaxy watched in horror and awe. Kyle felt fury rise within him, but he controlled it. Getting angry with Oliver would accomplish nothing. Instead, he opened a direct communication to the council chamber. Chancellor Varseth, Kyle said, I apologize for Commander Kane's actions. He acted without authorization, but his demonstration proves a point we need you to understand. We have been holding back. We came with 8 ships. We could have come with 8 million. We came with diplomats. We could have come with destroyers. Every moment since our arrival, we have restrained ourselves. We want peace, Chancellor, but we are prepared for war. In the council chamber, panic had erupted. Representatives were shouting. Some were fleeing. Others were calling for immediate surrender. Varseth raised his forearms for silence. Captain Morrison, he said, his voice steady despite his fear. You say you want peace. How can we trust beings with such power? You cannot, Kyle admitted. Trust must be built, not demanded. Allow us to present our case to the full council. Give us the chance to explain what we have become and why. Then decide. But decide with full knowledge. Varseth considered this. Around him, the council was in chaos. Thexulan had retreated, his military pride shattered. Jathik was arguing passionately for giving humanity the chance they requested. Others were preparing evacuation plans, certain that war was inevitable. Very well, Varseth said. Dr. Henry Cross may address the council. We will hear humanity's story. Henry prepared his presentation with care. He knew this might be humanity's only chance. He gathered data cores containing the complete record of exile. Images, recordings, historical documents. The story of 800,000 years condensed into something the council could comprehend. He appeared before the council via hologram, his form projected into the center of the great chamber. Thousands of alien eyes watched him with suspicion and fear. Henry took a slow breath, remembering everything his people had endured. My name is Henry Cross, he began. I am 600,000 years old. I am the last human who remembers Earth. That statement alone caused murmurs. 600,000 years. No natural lifespan should reach such lengths. When we were exiled, I was a child, Henry continued. I remember blue skies, green forests, oceans that sparkled in sunlight. I remember these things because no other human alive does. They died, all of them. My parents, my friends, everyone from the original exile. They died in the dark. He activated the first data core. Images appeared. Ships drifting through void space, families huddled in failing life support, children crying from hunger. The slow descent into barbarism as civilization broke down. We lost 90% of our population in the first 10,000 years, Henry said. We lost our technology, our knowledge, our culture. We became animals fighting over scraps. Ship turned against ship. Family turned against family. We nearly destroyed ourselves completely. The images shifted. Slowly, painfully, humanity began to rebuild. Generation Earth. The galaxy held its breath. For 7 days, the council debated behind closed doors while humanity waited patiently outside their borders. Kyle Morrison stood in the observation deck of the Ascendant, watching distant stars and wondering if peace was possible. Behind him, the door opened. Oliver Kane entered without invitation. "You think I was wrong," Oliver said. It was not a question. Kyle did not turn around. "Yes. You demonstrated power when we needed to demonstrate restraint." Oliver moved to stand beside him, looking out at the same stars. "I demonstrated truth. They need to understand what we are capable of. Otherwise, they will never respect us. They will never stop trying to control us." "We do not need their respect," Kyle replied quietly. "We need their acceptance." Oliver laughed without humor. "After 800,000 years, you still believe in acceptance?" "They threw us away, Kyle. They sentenced us to extinction. And when we survived anyway, when we evolved beyond their comprehension, you want to beg for permission to exist?" Kyle finally looked at his old friend. He saw the bitterness there, the pain that had never healed. Oliver had lost everything during the early exile. His family, his home, his very body. He had been forced to transcend or die, and part of him had died anyway. "I understand your anger," Kyle said softly. "I feel it too. But anger will not build the future we want. It will only destroy the present we have." Oliver shook his head. "You are too patient, Captain. Always waiting. Always hoping. While you wait, they prepare weapons. While you hope, they plot our destruction. One day your patience will cost us everything." "Perhaps," Kyle admitted. "But impatience has already cost you your humanity. Remember who we were before the exile, Oliver. Remember what we stood for." Oliver's expression hardened. "I remember perfectly. I remember being weak, being vulnerable, being at the mercy of those who feared our potential." "Never again, Kyle, never again." He left without another word. Kyle watched him go and felt a deep sadness. The exile had broken something in Oliver that could never be repaired. And he was not alone. Millions of humans carried similar wounds. A message arrived from the council. The vote was ready. Kyle summoned Henry, and together they watched as High Chancellor Varseth appeared on screen. "The vote is tied," Varseth announced without preamble. 6,800 species vote for peace and readmission. 6,000 species vote for continued exile. 47 species have abstained. Those abstentions will determine your fate. "Why did they abstain?" Henry asked. "Fear," Varseth said simply. "They fear making the wrong choice. They fear the consequences either way. The abstaining species have requested one final demonstration. They want to see humanity use their power for creation, not destruction. They want proof that transcendence has not stripped you of compassion." Kyle considered this. "What do they propose?" Varseth hesitated. "The Calarian colonies in the outer reach are dying. A plague has spread through our population centers. Our medical technology cannot stop it. Millions will die within the year. If humanity can save them, the abstaining species have agreed to vote for your readmission." Henry immediately began analyzing the problem. He accessed the medical data that Varseth transmitted. The plague was sophisticated, attacking on a cellular level. Conventional treatments had failed because the disease adapted faster than medicine could respond. "This will require direct intervention," Henry said. "We would need to enter Calarian space. We would need access to your people. Are you willing to allow that?" Varseth's crystal skin flickered with colors that Kyle recognized as shame. "I am asking you to save my people." "I'm in no position to refuse anything." "Then we accept," Kyle said. "Send us the coordinates. We will save your colonies." The Ascendant arrived at the Calarian outer reach within hours. 3 colony worlds, each populated by billions of crystal-skinned beings, all slowly dying from a plague they could not cure. Kyle brought only a small team. Henry led the medical effort while Kyle observed. Oliver came too, though he complained about wasting time on charity. They materialized in the central hospital of the largest colony. Calarian doctors watched with suspicion and desperate hope as Henry examined patients. The humans moved through the wards like ghosts, their post-biological forms allowing them to perceive the disease at levels impossible for organic beings. "I have identified the problem," Henry announced after an hour. "This plague is not natural. It was engineered." The Calarian doctors recoiled. Impossible. Who would create such a thing? Henry showed them his analysis. The plague contained design elements that matched known biological weapon signatures. Someone had deliberately infected the Calarian colonies, but the trail was too sophisticated to trace easily. Kyle understood immediately. This was a test, but not the kind the Council intended. Someone wanted to see how humanity would respond to sabotage. Someone wanted to create a situation where saving the Calarians might still fail the test. "Can you cure it?" Kyle asked. Henry nodded slowly. "Yes. But it will require something unprecedented. We need to reprogram the plague at a quantum level, transform it from a weapon into a vaccine. The process will take days and we will need to work directly with the infected." "Then begin," Kyle ordered. What followed was the most delicate operation humanity had ever attempted. Henry and his team moved through the colonies, touching the infected, linking their consciousness to the plague itself. They rewrote its genetic code molecule by molecule, transforming destruction into healing. It was exhausting work even for post-biological beings. Oliver watched with grudging respect. "This is what you wanted," he said to Kyle. "To prove we can create, not just destroy. But what if they still reject us after this?" "Then we leave," Kyle said. "But at least we will have saved innocent lives." "That means something," Oliver snorted. "Sentimentality. This is why we were exiled in the first place. We cared too much about things that did not matter." Kyle looked at him sadly. "Compassion always matters, Oliver. It is what makes us human." On the third day, alarms began sounding across the colonies. New infections were appearing faster than the humans could treat them. The plague was adapting, evolving in response to their intervention. Someone was actively fighting their cure. Henry traced the source. A hidden facility on the smallest colony moon was broadcasting signals that modified the plague in real time. Someone was sabotaging their rescue effort. Oliver smiled coldly. "Finally a target." "No," Kyle said. "We do not know who is responsible. It could be rogues. It could be a faction trying to prevent peace. We cannot attack without knowing." "While you debate, Calarians die," Oliver shot back. He was right. Kyle made a decision. "Henry, continue the cure. Oliver, you and I will investigate the facility. Non-lethal approach only. We find out who is behind this before we act." The facility was hidden beneath layers of rock and shielding. Conventional sensors would never find it, but humans who existed partially outside normal spacetime could detect anything. Kyle and Oliver phased through the rock as if it were not there, entering the facility without triggering any alarms. Inside, they found a laboratory, sophisticated equipment, and to their surprise they found Drax soldiers, Thexulan's people, still seeking revenge for their humiliation. They had created the plague to sabotage humanity's rescue effort. If the Calarians died despite human intervention, it would prove that humanity was either unwilling or unable to truly help. Oliver moved to attack. Kyle stopped him with a gesture. They watched the Drax soldiers working, recording everything. Evidence was more valuable than revenge. "We could end this now," Oliver whispered. "Destroy the facility, stop the sabotage, and prove we are as violent as they fear," Kyle replied. "No, we have evidence. We expose this to the Council. We let them handle their own traitors." Oliver's frustration was palpable. "Your mercy will be the death of us, perhaps," Kyle admitted, "but I would rather die merciful than live cruel." They transmitted the evidence to Varseth directly. The High Chancellor's response was immediate and furious. Council security forces descended on the facility within minutes. The Drax soldiers were arrested. Thexulan himself was brought before an emergency tribunal. With the sabotage ended, Henry and his team completed their work. The plague was transformed into a vaccine. The infection rate dropped to 0. Millions of Calarians who had been dying began to recover. The relief was overwhelming. Varseth came to the colonies personally. He walked through the hospitals where his people were healing. He saw human doctors working tirelessly, asking nothing in return. He found Kyle standing alone in a garden, watching the sun set over the colony. "You saved my people," Varseth said quietly. "We did what anyone should do," Kyle replied. Varseth's crystals glowed with colors Kyle had learned to recognize as gratitude, but also shame. "You could have destroyed the facility. You could have killed those who tried to stop you, but you did not. You showed restraint even when provoked. Why? Because we are trying to prove something," Kyle said. "Not to you, to ourselves. We need to know that 800,000 years of exile did not turn us into monsters. That evolution did not cost us our souls." Varseth was quiet for a long moment. Then he spoke words that would change everything. "I have decided. I will use my authority as High Chancellor to break the tie. I vote for your readmission. Welcome back to the Galactic Council, Captain Morrison." The galaxy had never known true fear before. For 1,000,000 years, the Council had maintained peace through diplomacy and cooperation. Wars were rare. Existential threats were theoretical. But now something ancient and incomprehensible was coming, and every civilization faced the same question: fight or flee. Kyle Morrison stood before an emergency session of the Galactic Council. Behind him, projections showed the Watchers approaching. They appeared as geometric impossibilities, shapes that hurt to perceive, existing in dimensions that biological minds were not meant to comprehend. Each one was larger than a star system. "The Silent Ones have revealed what these beings are," Kyle explained. "The Watchers are the successors to the Precursors. When the Precursors transcended physical existence, they left behind guardians whose purpose is to prevent others from following the same path. The Watchers believe that post-biological evolution is a form of death, not ascension. They erase transcendent civilizations to save organic life from what they see as extinction." Councillor Juthik, the young Menthari representative, spoke first. Her voice trembled. "If they are so powerful, how can we possibly resist?" "We cannot," Kyle admitted. "Not through force. Humanity, with all our transcendent abilities, could not defeat a single Watcher, let alone 7. Our only chance is to convince them that we are worth preserving." Thexulan, recently released from custody, stood up. His military pride had been replaced with cold calculation. "You propose talking to entities that can destroy galaxies. That is not a strategy, that is suicide." Henry Cross materialized beside Kyle. His ancient face showed determination. "It is the only strategy we have. The Watchers operate on a moral framework. They believe they are saving life by destroying transcendent beings. If we can prove that transcendence enhances organic existence rather than replacing it, they might spare us." Varseth spoke thoughtfully. "How do we prove such a thing?" Kyle gestured to the council chamber. "By showing them this. 12,000 species coexisting peacefully. Humanity using transcendent powers to protect and nurture biological civilizations, not dominate them. We show them cooperation between different forms of existence." Oliver Kane appeared in the chamber. His sudden arrival startled many counselors. He looked at Kyle with an expression that mixed respect and frustration. "A beautiful sentiment, Captain. But what if they are not interested in philosophy? What if they simply erase us before we can speak?" "Then we buy time," Kyle said. "Humanity will confront the Watchers directly. We will hold them at the Galactic Rim, while the Council evacuates vulnerable populations to safe zones. If we fail, at least billions will survive to rebuild." The Council erupted in debate. Some species wanted to abandon their homeworlds immediately. Others refused to flee. Many looked to humanity with new eyes. These beings who had just returned from exile, who could have conquered the galaxy, were volunteering to sacrifice themselves to buy time for others. Varseth raised his 4 arms for silence. "Captain Morrison's plan has merit. We will begin evacuation procedures immediately. All non-essential populations will be relocated to designated safe zones. Essential personnel will remain to coordinate the defense effort. The Council thanks humanity for this sacrifice." Kyle shook his head. "It is not a sacrifice if we succeed, and we will not face this alone. Any Council ships willing to fight alongside us are welcome. This is not humanity's battle. This is everyone's survival." Admiral Patricia Vance, the Trellan commander, stepped forward. Her military bearing was strong despite the fear in her 4 eyes. "The Council Defense Fleet will fight with you, Captain. We may not have your abilities, but we have courage. That must count for something." Kyle nodded gratefully. "Courage always counts, Admiral. Assemble your fleet." We moved to the Galactic Rim in 12 hours. Back aboard the Ascendant, Kyle gathered his command team. Henry prepared defensive strategies. Oliver coordinated weapon systems. Other humans worked at impossible speeds, their transcendent minds processing scenarios faster than any computer. A message came from the Dark Zone. Prime Architect Vera Simmons, leader of the human collective, appeared as a hologram. She looked ancient beyond measure, having lived for 750,000 years. Her voice carried the weight of countless decisions. "I am bringing reinforcements," she announced. "Every ship we have, every human who can fight. We survived 800,000 years of exile. We will not fail now." Kyle felt relief wash over him. "How many ships?" Simmons smiled grimly. 8,000. We held back before, showing only 8 vessels to avoid frightening the Council. But this is no time for restraint. The full strength of humanity will face the Watchers. The fleet assembled at the Galactic Rim. 8,000 human vessels, each one a marvel of post-biological engineering. 2,000 Council ships representing hundreds of species who refused to flee. Admiral Vance commanded the Council forces while Kyle coordinated humanity's response. Together they waited. The Watchers arrived ahead of schedule. They did not travel through normal space. They simply appeared, their massive forms phasing into reality as if they had always been there. 7 geometric impossibilities hung in the void, each one radiating power that made stars flicker. Henry monitored the readings with growing concern. "They are scanning us, analyzing our nature, determining whether we qualify as post-biological entities that need to be erased." Kyle opened a channel. "This is Captain Kyle Morrison representing humanity and the Galactic Council. We request dialogue." For a long moment there was no response. Then a voice filled every mind in the fleet. It was not sound but pure meaning, bypassing language entirely. The sensation was overwhelming. "You are contaminated. You have abandoned biological existence. You are dead but do not know it. We will correct this error." Kyle forced himself to respond despite the mental pressure. "We have not abandoned biological existence. We have expanded it. We use transcendent abilities to protect organic life, not replace it. Observe the fleet around us. Biological and post-biological beings working together. The Watchers seem to consider this. Your cooperation is noted, but it changes nothing. You have crossed the threshold. You are no longer truly alive. Your existence is an insult to the natural order. You must be cleansed." One of the Watchers moved forward. Reality warped around it. The fleet's sensors registered impossible readings. Space itself was being rewritten. Ships began to phase out of existence, not destroyed but simply erased from reality as if they had never been. Oliver reacted instantly. He had been waiting for this. His ships launched a counterattack using weapons that operated on principles similar to the Watchers' own powers. Dimensional anchors, reality stabilizers, tools designed to fight beings that existed beyond normal physics. The battle was unlike anything the universe had witnessed. Humans fought in multiple timelines simultaneously. Council ships provided support fire that helped ground reality around combat zones. The Watchers responded with surgical precision, erasing targets with mathematical certainty. But humanity had spent 800,000 years learning to survive impossible odds. They adapted. They improvised. They refused to give up. For every ship the Watchers erased, 10 more took its place, phasing through different dimensions to attack from unexpected angles. Henry made a discovery. The Watchers were not invincible. They operated on logic, on rules that even they could not break, and one of those rules was that they could not harm purely biological beings. The Council ships were immune to the erasure effect. He transmitted this information immediately. Admiral Vance understood at once. Her fleet moved into formation, using their immunity to shield human vessels. The Council ships became mobile barriers, protecting their transcendent allies while humanity struck at the Watchers. The cooperation was beautiful in its simplicity. Biological beings protecting post-biological beings, different forms of existence supporting each other. It was exactly what Kyle had hoped to demonstrate, but it was not enough. The Watchers were too powerful. One by one, human ships fell. Even with Council support, the fleet was losing. 3 days of fighting left them exhausted and depleted. Half the human vessels were gone. A quarter of Council ships destroyed. Kyle knew they could not win through force. He made a desperate decision. He would speak to the Watchers directly, not through communication systems but through consciousness itself. He would link his mind to theirs and try to make them understand. Oliver protested. That will kill you. Their minds operate on levels that will tear yours apart. Kyle smiled sadly. Then I will die trying. But I will not watch everyone else die while I stand by. Henry placed a hand on Kyle's shoulder. You will not go alone. I will link with you. My consciousness is old enough to withstand the strain. Together we might survive. But before they could act, something unexpected happened. A signal came from deep within human space, from the location where Henry Cross had been trapped, holding the temporal collapse in eternal stasis. Somehow, impossibly, he was still conscious, still aware, and he had learned something crucial. The message transmitted through quantum entanglement, bypassing normal space entirely. I have experienced 3 million subjective years in a single moment. I have learned the language of the precursors. I know what to say to the Watchers. Let me speak for us. 50,000 years passed, time that would have been impossible to imagine during the early days of exile, yet now it seemed brief. The galaxy had transformed in ways nobody could have predicted when humanity first returned from the darkness. Kyle Morrison walked through the streets of New Earth, a station built in orbit around what had once been humanity's homeworld. The planet below was still barren, still dead from the ancient wars that had preceded exile. But the station above teemed with life. Humans and aliens mixed freely, living and working side by side. Children of a dozen species played in the gardens. Scientists from hundreds of worlds collaborated in the research centers. This was what they had built. This was what 50,000 years of cooperation had created. Henry Cross found Kyle watching the planet below. Henry looked different now. He had finally been freed from temporal stasis, rescued by a joint effort of human and council scientists working together. The experience had changed him. 3 million subjective years trapped in a single moment had given him perspective that even other ancient humans lacked. Remembering Earth? Henry asked gently. Kyle nodded. I never saw it living. I was born in the Dark Zone, 300,000 years after exile. But somehow I still miss it. Strange, is it not? Not strange at all, Henry replied. Home is not just a place. It is an idea, a memory, a hope. Earth lives in all of us, even those who never walked its surface. They stood together in comfortable silence, two beings who had lived impossibly long lives, watching the younger generations build something new. The council has called an assembly, Henry said eventually. The Watchers are moving again. They want to speak with us. Kyle felt his old anxiety return. Have we passed their test? Henry smiled. There is only one way to find out. The assembly gathered at the Station of Eternal Accord, the council's central meeting place. Representatives from all 12,000 species attended. Humanity had representatives too now, integrated fully into the governmental structure. Oliver Kane sat among them, older and wiser, his bitterness transformed into determination. The Watchers appeared without warning. Not all 7, but their primary speaker. The geometric impossibility materialized in the center of the chamber, existing in more dimensions than the room could properly contain. Every being present felt the pressure of its attention. We have observed the Watcher communicated directly to every mind. For 50,000 rotations we have watched your civilization. We have seen cooperation between biological and post-biological existence. We have seen transcendent beings using their power to nurture rather than dominate. We have seen something unprecedented in the history of this galaxy. High Chancellor Varseth, now ancient even by his species standards, spoke for the council. Have we proven what you needed to see? The Watcher's presence pulsed with something that might have been approval. You have proven more than we thought possible. When we first encountered the precursors, they chose transcendence over connection. They abandoned biological existence to pursue power and knowledge. We believed this was the inevitable result of post-biological evolution. We believed transcendence meant death. But you have shown us something different, the Watcher continued. Humanity transcended not to escape biological limitations, but to better protect biological life. You use power as a tool for preservation, not domination. You have created something the precursors never achieved. Harmony between different forms of existence. Kyle stood. Does this mean you will cease your purge? The Watcher focused its attention on him. More than that, Captain Morrison. We will withdraw completely. We will return to dormancy. Our purpose was to prevent the tragedy we witnessed with the precursors. But you have proven that tragedy is not inevitable. Transcendence can coexist with biology. Power can serve compassion. You have taught us something we thought impossible to learn. Relief swept through the chamber. 50,000 years of living under that judgment, and now it was lifted. But the Watcher was not finished speaking. However, you must understand, we are not the only Watchers in existence. Beyond this galaxy, in the vast darkness between galactic clusters, other forces exist. Some benevolent, some hostile, some incomprehensible. Your civilization has achieved something remarkable. But your trials are not over. You have proven yourselves to us. Now you must prove yourselves to a larger universe. Before anyone could respond, the Watcher transmitted a final gift. Knowledge, vast databases of information about the wider universe, maps of other galaxies, warnings about threats yet to come, records of civilizations that had risen and fallen. Everything the Watchers had learned in their millions of years of existence offered freely. Use this wisely, the Watcher said. You have the potential to become something great, perhaps even greater than the precursors. But potential means nothing without wise choices. Remember what you have learned. Power without compassion is destruction, but compassion with power can reshape reality itself. The Watcher vanished, returning to the galactic core. The chamber erupted in conversation. Representatives debated what this meant, what challenges might lie ahead. But Kyle felt only a deep satisfaction. They had passed the test, not through violence, not through conquest, but through cooperation and compassion. The assembly adjourned. Kyle returned to the observation deck where he had first watched the galaxy after returning from exile. So much had changed. So much had been won. Oliver joined him there. The commander looked peaceful in a way Kyle had never seen before. We did it, Oliver said simply. We actually did it, Kyle smiled. Yes, we survived exile. We evolved. We returned. We proved ourselves. And now we face the future together. Not as separate species, but as one civilization. Oliver was quiet for a moment. Then he spoke words Kyle had never expected to hear from him. I was wrong. About everything. I thought power was the answer. I thought if we were strong enough, feared enough, we would finally be safe. But you showed me something different. You showed me that true strength comes from connection, not isolation. From compassion, not fear. Kyle put a hand on his friend's shoulder. You were not wrong, Oliver. You were hurt. There is a difference. The exile broke something in all of us, but we healed. Together, Counselor Jothic approached them. She had grown into a wise leader over the past 50,000 years. Her species had embraced humanity fully, even undergoing voluntary transcendence with human guidance. She was living proof that post-biological evolution could be a choice, not a necessity. The Council is proposing something, she said. A joint mission. Human and Council crews together, using the knowledge the Watchers gave us to explore beyond our galaxy. They are calling it the Pioneer Initiative. Kyle felt excitement stir within him. How many ships? 100 to start, Jothic replied. Half human, half Council species. Mixed crews on every vessel. We want to meet other civilizations as equals, not conquerors. We want to share what we have learned about cooperation between different forms of existence. Oliver nodded slowly. And if we find hostile forces? Then we defend ourselves, Jothic said firmly. But we defend with the goal of peace, not domination. We offer cooperation first, force only as last resort. That is the lesson we learned from humanity's return. Kyle looked at his companions. At Oliver, once bitter but now hopeful. At Jothic, representing the new generation that knew only cooperation. At Henry in the distance, speaking with young scientists about Earth's ancient history. This was the future they had fought for. I will lead the mission, Kyle said. If the Council approves. The Council approved unanimously. 3 months later, the Pioneer fleet departed from New Earth Station. 100 ships carrying the hopes of 12,000 civilizations. Biological and post-biological crews working together, ready to face whatever the universe held. Kyle stood on the bridge of his new ship, appropriately named the Unity. Henry served as Chief Science Officer. Oliver commanded the defense wing. Admiral Vance led the Council military contingent. Together, they represented everything their civilizations had become. As the fleet prepared to jump beyond the galactic rim, a message came through. It was from Prime Architect Vera Simmons. still leading the human collective from the dark zone that was no longer dark. The region had been transformed into a thriving hub of research and development, where species came to learn about transcendence. "Safe travels, Captain Morrison," Simmons said. "You carry the hopes of everyone who suffered through the exile. Show the universe what we learned in the darkness. Show them that isolation breeds strength, but connection breeds greatness." Kyle smiled. "We will make you proud, Prime Architect." The fleet jumped. 100 ships vanishing from galactic space, heading into the vast darkness between galaxies. Their mission would take thousands of years. They would encounter wonders and horrors. They would find allies and enemies. But they would face everything together. Back in civilized space, the galaxy continued its daily rhythm. Trade between species flourished. Art and culture blended in beautiful new ways. Scientific collaboration produced breakthroughs that neither biological nor post-biological beings could achieve alone. The exile was now ancient history, a cautionary tale about the costs of fear and the rewards of acceptance. Varseth, now retired from his position as High Chancellor, spent his final years writing a comprehensive history of the crisis. He called it the